It's kind of unusual for me to stream on a weeknight and to stream on YouTube in general. But we'll see. See if we can get everybody to come hang out. Working on some drat pedals right now. So for those who aren't on the other social media, Fuzz Imp is moving to Portland. And right now, everything on the website is really discounted. So if you're rewatching this stream later, the pricing may have returned back to the normal rates. But yeah, I am moving from kind of rural Oregon to Portland proper. And it's a pretty significant and pretty big change. But yeah, the website, fuzzimp.com, everything's marked down. Creatures, drats, whatever you can imagine is on sale right now. And it's really smoking deals. But yeah, what I've realized living where I've been living really since the beginning of the company is that it's, it's been a journey. I've learned a lot. But just the overhead, what's been happening is a lot of this year, the overhead has been such that I'm having to spend a lot more time outside of the house working side gigs than I am building pedals. And while, everybody has to pay their bills and all that, I get it. I'm not able to see as much growth as I'd like from the company. And it happened kind of fast, but a spot opened up with a friend of mine. And so early July, I am transitioning from my current house to the new place, sharing an apartment with a friend of mine who is also a pedal builder. And I'm really excited about all of this. And I think it's going to be a really good move in general for the company and for myself to see this kind of personal growth. And a byproduct of that is running just absolutely ridiculous sales on the website right now. So definitely hop in and take advantage if you like. But yeah, we're gonna build some drats and just talk. It's also really near the 2-year anniversary of Fuzz Imp. When I changed the name, I transitioned from Fuzz Simp to Fuzz Imp 2 years ago. And at the time when I was still called Fuzz Simp, the website had gotten kind of messy. I had a lot of different models. And, I really wanted to streamline my whole setup and just, make everything make a lot more sense. And at the time, too, this is in 2021 I'm talking about, I had all these different models, all these different, and they sounded good, but there were some duplicates. But a lot of my things that were selling the most, like the Shroot Original and all of that, were just there's a lot of potential for me to maybe get a C and D. I was kind of riding the line with the Shroot series the whole time it's been live, just not knowing if at any point I'd be issued a cease and desist, and that was a little scary, especially since that was my my full income at the time. And plus I wanted to make sure that customers liked the name. So yeah, coming up on the 2-year anniversary is a pretty big deal. And what better time than now to make the move to Portland. I'm really looking forward to being more plugged into the local scene. Having access to all the great shops that are there, all the great people that are out there. When I was hanging flyers a bunch for the company, or for this venue, I was, walking the streets of Portland and kind of getting a feel for the city. I spent time there, all throughout my life, but I really had no desire to live there until really recently, just kind of seeing how much better of a cultural center it is than where I've been living. And there's a whole lot of other reasons, but that's a few of the reasons why I'm making the move. But yeah, so right now, fuzzimp.com. I dropped a direct link in the description, so you should be able to just click that and go straight to the website. Everything is heavily marked down, and it would go a long ways into helping with the moving costs. So if you're in a position to help and you want to help grow Fuzz Imp, this would be a fantastic time to snag something. And everything, there's no discount code, everything's just marked down. I'm trying that instead to see if that gets people to respond slightly better. So that's kind of what I'm trying. And obviously, I've been pushing this a lot more on my other social media. So if you follow me there, that's great. On Instagram, on Facebook, on TikTok, whatever. But if this is all news to you, yeah, the website is running absolutely smoking deals right now. And the move, yeah, I have to say I am a little nervous about making, uprooting everything that I've built up to this point. But I think there's so much upside that, all my hesitation and all my doubts, I think it's all going to work out good. But I hope you guys are all having a nice, it's Tuesday, right? Tuesday evening. Been working like crazy. I actually don't have all that much mess to clean up from my place, so that's good. So I'm not going to have this huge project to move. I've already started kind of tackling different key areas in the house and starting to work through where I thought a lot of the problem areas would be, and thankfully it's going pretty quick. But yeah, I know some of the regulars are probably tuning in. I'm not seeing any comments. Let's see if any have come in. Let's see. Oh, there it goes. Is it doing it? Yeah. So hopefully you guys are all having a nice evening hanging out. And we're going to build some more pedals. Hi, Mike. Yeah, I'm moving from the sticks to Portland proper. If you didn't catch that whole arc. You're still out in Vegas, right? That's I don't know that I would necessarily thrive there, but it's I hope you're doing good. But I've been, like, the other night on Instagram, I was going through all these boxes that I had kind of tucked away in closets and different things of miscellaneous parts and cases. Oh, that's good. Mike said he's doing great. But yeah, I'm the whole goal with this is for me to grow as a person. I've lived in kind of the rural area of Oregon full time, more or less since I was born. There was a time when I was real young where the folks lived kind of closer to the metro area, but I'm not old enough to remember it. There's a bunch. The area where I live is kind of big. Like, there's a lot of different towns I've been living in. But, I'm still obviously, like, the whole motivation for this is to actually build more pedals than I have been. And my friend hopefully will be able to show me some things. He's a much more experienced builder than I am. So all good things. Plus the food's going to be awesome. Going to have access to way more food options. The town where I live right now is real small. And there's not a lot to do here. There's not a lot of options. And I made the decision quite a while ago to not drive. So I haven't been driving or owning a vehicle since I moved here. Having everything delivered to me for the company and all that stuff and working remote has worked great. And there's a little bit of side work that I do have access to where I live now, through the family and through some different people. But all that to say, the time has run out for the small town life. And I am so looking forward to this change, even though, like I said, I have been, the initial, it also kind of happened kind of fast, but that first week was, feeling a little bit, sad, nostalgic for, this has been my home base for a long time. And leaving any home that you've built for yourself, regardless of whether or not, you're going to do something better, there's still a lot of, a lot of feelings around it. At least that's what I've been going through. I don't know if anybody else is making a move around now or had to make a pretty big move recently, but I know I helped 2 other people move this last weekend. So I know that it's definitely I was saying something to the effect of it's a mid-year migration. And if you're wondering what we're building, these are Drat circuit boards. So the Drat pedal, the recreation of my favorite pedal from when I was a youth. When I was a just a tender little guy, it was like my second or third pedal I ever got. The first pedal I got was a Digitech death metal pedal. I actually bought a DoD death metal from the Guitar Center, but it didn't work for some reason, so we took it back, and I got the death metal, the Digitech version instead, and that was kind of my first pedal. And I was still using batteries back then, and eventually I got a one spot or something. I just am super grateful that today, like the gear scene today, we have so much more access to information. Like if you're not, part of an active musician community, or have musicians in your musician friends in your circle or whatever, and you're kind of learning everything from scratch, it's awesome that now there's so much more access to resources online and forums, and you can figure out how to set up all your rigs. But the early 2000s were pretty interesting, because I started playing pretty seriously when I was 13, so 2003, which actually was right around the kind of explosion of the modern pedal era, which there was a lot going on. Electro Harmonics started making the reissues. Oh yeah, the Turbo OD. I just had one of those last year, I think. It was either last year or the year before. This is ready to start soldering. While I'm waiting, I'll just throw a few more parts in. The second one. But I decided to reissue and use these through-hole boards because I have a lot of parts. I made a couple different products with these boards, these Brat boards. And the difference between a Brat and a regular Rat is that it has an extra quad of diodes that I believe are soft clipping. They're almost acting like a gate, like an HM2 has all those extra diodes for. Kind of like a hardwired gate. And it's slightly softer and more distortion-y and less fuzzy than typical Rats, which is a really good sound. And when I just kind of on a whim busted out a board. I think what it is, I found a build in my closet. Hey, how's it going, Mark? Talking about the sales that are running on now, and kind of reflecting on Fuzz Imp as a whole, talking about various models, various pedals. Feel free to chime in. I haven't done a YouTube stream in quite a while, so hopefully a few people show up. I know it's kind of a weird time to be streaming. People are probably chilling, trying to recover after work. I just watched the new Avatar movie. Not Avatar the Airbender, Avatar the Way of the Water. I rented it. I think I started it Sunday night. I watched it in 2 sections because that movie is sneaking long. And that was actually pretty good. I'm a big fan of movies and streaming content in general. I watch a lot of YouTube, watch a lot of different shows and series. Like The Bear Season 2 came out. I watched all of that within 2 days. But, the production value on any James Cameron movie is absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, the Drat is really unique. And one of the cool things, and I need to show this in a video when I get a chance, is using it as a boost into a dirty amp. I was borrowing my friend's Joyo Zombie, and I was getting some killer sounds with it. And that was pretty sweet. Yeah, so this is the same board. I just am not sure. I think yours has some clipping diode mods and stuff. It should have a toggle. I saw a picture of it pop up in Facebook Memories or something. The custom that Mike is referencing. And it has a boost, an extra boost circuit. And I had thought, when I initially launched the Drat back a month or so ago, the game plan originally was just to fundraise to pay for the delay to get made. And my plan was to do a more evolved, modern take on the Rat and make it into a metal pedal, where it's got some like EQ controls and all kinds of stuff. But I I don't know if I'm going to go down that route. I still might. I think the Rat is a pretty good platform, but uh, it inherently has some EQ limitations. Like I love how the Brat and the Drat are voiced 100%. You know, and you can add more boost to the front. You can add some EQ in different stages, and you can definitely get different sounds from it. But I'm not really sure if that's exactly what I want to do with it. You know. But the Rat into the Marshall sound is very, very, very good. 100%. I know Tony Peppers did it's like a Rat into a JCM 800 preamp all in a box. And that seemed to catch some traction. And it seemed like that would be kind of cool. I kind of want to check it out. Off the top of my head, I don't remember the name of it, but I know he's known for the Dirty Tree, which does sound really good. Tony is always commenting on my Facebook. Shout out Tony Peppers. But yeah, it's been a lot to kind of process the move, and I am excited, but yeah, like I was mentioning really early in the stream, it was taking a lot out of me, you know, realizing just how many memories and how much time I've spent in this apartment building the company and leaving that behind. But it's time. Each summer for the company has been pretty rough, you know, trying to just keep bills paid and try and come up with ideas when sales are real light. There's a summer slump that's very real in the pedal industry, whether or not anybody tells you it, but pretty much universally across the board, during summer is when gear sales drop because people are out and about, they're out doing things. And, you know, I've survived up to this point, thankfully, but, you know, looking at writing another one out, I was like, something's gotta give. Oh, right. Yeah. I hope that someday he's able to go full time. And I think that's something I started to realize too, especially this year. You know, the first year during quarantine, I had a lot more traction and it was a little easier to advertise. Like a bunch of different factors have changed from the early days of the company, which was only 2 years ago, but it's just a totally different landscape today than it was back then. And, you know, now I get why a lot of builders that have been around a little bit but aren't full-time, they still work day gigs for the stability, and I get it now. You know, I've talked about it before a bunch of different times on different videos, but, you know, I'm still relatively young in the scene. And of course, you know, I was willing to live cheap. I was willing to kind of tough it out and make it work as it was, but, you know, just kind of getting really limited. Like, there's only so many expenses you can cut and only so many, you know, pieces of gear you can sell and all the things you do to try and stay afloat. And it's like, I'm ready. Plus, there was some other things going on outside of the scope of everyone's business, but it was well timed to try something new. But anyway, I think it'll mean a lot of good things for the company, and I'm really excited about, you know, trying to learn more about pedals again. I think that's something I want to dive back into, is getting a lot more experimental, spend more time prototyping, and also, you know, having access to so many better part-time gigs. You know, some of the construction and stuff that I have access to right now isn't necessarily super ideal. Yeah, exactly. Um, and, you know, just dealing with the realities of operating in the world today, and we have to be flexible and adapt as best we can, right? Okay, I've realized I turned my iron on and I need to start soldering some stuff. So give me 1 second. Oh, here's a couple things if you ever do DIY and you're curious. Like, I use my thumbnail to bend the legs straight. I don't use a, what do they call it? Like a frame or anything like that, because I don't do that much through hole anyway. What I do is I bend the legs inward, and then they're a lot more manageable. And like I did with this board, I just kind of go through and hit all of them, and then I'll go through, solder a bunch, clip a few, solder a bunch, and then it'll all be done. But the reason even though these builds take longer than my SMT board builds, uh, these drats are getting that authentic sound that I really like. And I had a whole collection of the parts, so all I had to get was the circuit boards. And most of my stuff doesn't work like that. I have to order batches of SMT assembled stuff because there's a few products that it just would be completely impossible and not feasible to offer for any kind of reasonable price if I had to solder every single component. Things like Adventure in particular, like that would be like over an hour assembly time per unit, probably like 2 or 3 hours if I had to hand assemble those. Plus I'd have to stock, like, it has like 80 components or something because 3 circuits, right? The Adventure is, but it's a pretty neat one. But yeah, just, dealing with all this stuff, kind of processing, trying to make the right moves for me as a person to grow. I think part of it too is I really do want to be a little more social, get out to more shows, maybe start playing music again. And it's hard to do that when I'm pretty far removed from the scene. And enhancing my social circle as much as I like small town life. Uh, it has its drawbacks too. You need to go where the people are. But there's so many cool shops that are pedal centric in Portland. For those who aren't familiar with the area, there's like 5 shops just off the top of my head that are very pedal forward shops, and they cater, like being a boutique pedal company that really does cater to the needs of musicians in the Pacific Northwest. It's very in to have cool pedal boards with a lot of units on them. And yeah, I think pedals will still continue to be relevant for a long time. I know that there's always talk of new modeling devices that, capture a lot of stuff, and the Helix gets amazing sound for sure. But, even as, the digital products evolve, I think there always will be a contingent of players who crave kind of authentic, well thought out analog devices. And I think for my, if I was to really kind of point to what exactly I want to do in the long term, I think it would be something closer to smaller batch stuff that's a little higher end. Maybe work on the presentation and kind of marketing. Like, I've tried to be an earthquaker devices for a while, which I think is a pretty good paradigm if you're going to emulate, just as far as price point and feature set. I think I'd like to kind of maybe be making less units, but more kind of wild, creative stuff with more features. Like, competing for the lower mid-range is tricky, right? And it comes with a lot of drawbacks. Whereas I think my whole vision would be better suited to something a little more specific and niche, and being able to kind of monetize that. Well, I'm going to go jump over. Thanks, Mark and Mike. I'm going to go jump over to Facebook, see if we can drum up a little bit of a party there, and we'll talk soon.